All right. How you guys doing? Let's get the chat out of here. Hey, John. Hey, Brian. Hey, Daniel. Let's get to fix a couple things here on my end. Man, I've been just grinding today. I'm releasing the most amount of videos I've ever at one time. I'm posting 21 videos or 21 pieces of content from the field tomorrow. It's insane. So I've been getting all that together. I had tomorrow's videos with Stefan Simkowiak of the Miracle Farm. You guys can hear me okay? And man, Steph was just a wealth of knowledge. I'm in my greenhouse here, kind of by my little tool shed, in case you guys are wondering. There's my lemon trees and stuff like that. I had a board game night here last night with some buddies. It was my birthday actually yesterday. 40. I'm 40 years old now. But yeah, 21 videos. It's amazing. The more I visit these farmers, the more I'm just starting to just get so much good stuff out of these guys. Yes, it's a record. I've got the featured video and then the audio version of the video. And then the podcast, that'll come out tomorrow. But then I made 17 or 18 other subject videos with that. Like Stefan was just such a gold mine. If you guys don't know who Stefan Simkowiak is, you got to check him out. He's on YouTube. He's making videos, and he's just an amazing orchardist. The Permaculture Orchard. He did a DVD a while ago called, I think it's called The Permaculture Orchard. It's amazing. This is the board game I was playing last night. Agricola. It's a farming strategy board game. I love strategy games. Actually, you can see a few in the background. I got my Settlers of Catan there. I got my Risk Game of Thrones. It's awesome. Why do you get to talk about weed on your channel when others that do get blocked? Is it because it's legal in Canada? Maybe. I know that when I talk about weed in my channel, the videos get demonetized. So I don't know. We'll see. So I've got a few. Actually, what else have I got to say here? Yeah. So I mean, from the field tomorrow for members, an insane amount of content coming. Last week, I actually went and interviewed one of my first mentors when I first got into farming, John Alcock, up at Sunshine Farm. He's a seed saver, 30-year seed saver, organic, and did a video with him. So that'll be coming out later on too. Trying to get into other stuff, but this video with Steph in the orchard is amazing. The polycultures that he has set up are just incredible. And he's got this amazing business model that's a membership type thing. So people pay $60 a year to be a member, and then that means they can come and pick fruit from his orchard. It's so cool, and it's profitable. And for a guy who is in the golden years of his life, I mean, I guess, is it golden years? I don't want to insult Steph, but he's no spring chicken, and so he doesn't want to do a ton of extra work. So people pay to come and pick, and they set the orchard up in a way that's really easy for people to come and pick, and then they just pay like a bulk price at the end. Thanks guys for all the happy birthdays. Yeah, super cool. So I got my front. I'll just looking at the comments here. How's Paper Pot Code going? New product? Yeah. We got a big new product coming out real soon, and we are on version 5 of it right now. I just met with my engineer yesterday here. So a lot of people don't realize that we actually manufacture, the new stuff that Paper Pot Co. is putting out. Like we bootstrapped that company just importing stuff from Japan, but we're actually making our own tools now, and we're making them right here in Kelowna. I have an engineer that I work with, 2 guys actually. And I come up with designs and ideas, and then they do 3D CAD drawings, and then we go back and forth on product development, and then we do prototyping, and then we manufacture everything here too. So steel, aluminum, acrylics, plastics, we're 3D printing, we're laser cutting, we're doing all this crazy stuff, powder coating, metal, and yeah, so really cool stuff coming along. I'm so stoked for you guys to see this new product. I can't say much about it yet. We're actually waiting on a patent pending for it, but yeah, it's awesome. But so that's what's going on there. I'm strongly considering doing microgreens as an endeavor. Is wondering what top 5 seeds. I did a video on that. I did a top 3 video on microgreen seeds. Check that one out. It's on YouTube. Yeah, so we'll be promoting some of that Paper Pot Co stuff coming up soon. And yeah, right on. So I'm gonna get into these questions. How many of you guys we got in here right now? Can I see the how do I see this damn thing? You have to toggle it back and forth. YouTube Live's got a strange way of organizing this. Let's see. Okay, there's a good amount of you in here. There's the chat. Is there any reason why Salanova seeds are not outside the EU or and Canada? EEUU? What's EEUU? I'm not sure. Salanova came from Europe, though. It's called something else in Europe, but you can get them in Europe. And Salanova, the specific that name, is only in North America, as far as I can tell. Can you start a microgreen biz in the cold weather garage? If you need it, yeah, totally. Well, I got the sun coming in my greenhouse. Okay, let me email me about consulting rates, Phil. I don't like to put broadcasting that stuff. I don't like giving easy information for people to talk about. Email me about that if you're interested. I'm not really consulting right now. I decided to do a little bit again in the fall. It just seemed like there's a lot of people that wanted my help, so I'll do a little bit in the fall. And then let me just double check my email here. Do we live on a globe? I don't know. You tell me. I'm going to pull up my questions here. Hey, thanks, Lynn. Appreciate the videos. I appreciate that. No sun in Langley. Yeah. Actually going to be a lot of people. So I'll mention this one thing. A lot of people commented on that video I did about the ALR in BC, that silly piece of legislation that's causing problems for farmers. And so I actually get a lot of emails from people, and this will be kind of a red pill thing. I'm not going to drop the red pill on everybody, but this is I get a lot of people that are into the free man movement stuff, common law, Magna Carta, base law stuff, that comment and say, these things aren't legitimate. You can challenge them, and they're right. And I'm actually going to interview a guy in Vancouver named Cal Washington, who a lot of people in BC know who he is. He's actually internationally recognized in the movement. I don't know what you call it. His website's called inpower.com, and this guy understands the common law so well in Canada, and he's proven many things that are just not laws. They're just BS. They're just made up, and people go along with them because they don't know any better. But the ALR, I think, is actually one of those things. And so I'm going to go and interview him and talk about it, because I think, I'm tired of farmers being bullied. I'm really, it absolutely pisses me off. If you were to pick one group of people in the world that are just shit on constantly, it's probably farmers around the world. And I'm so tired of it. And there's this global movement all under the guise of sustainable development that's pushing farmers off land. And I'm seeing that all around the world. And I've had hundreds of farmers reach out to me in different countries, from Eastern Europe, Western Europe, Africa, all over the continents. And it's a trend. And if you actually go and look at Agenda 21, it says it right in there. But I can't prove that there's a correlation between Agenda 21 and what the ALR has done with Bill 52, but I think there is. Anyways, I'm going to go talk to a guy about that and help find some solutions for farmers to get the governments off their back. So that's kind of my mission as a passion project right now. besides writing a book and doing a bunch of other things. Okay, so let's get into our questions here. I'm going to pull up my go up in the From the Field forum here. There's not as many today, and that's partially my fault, guys, so I apologize for that. I don't know how I forgot to make the post in the forum. I usually do it on Monday morning. I didn't do it until yesterday, so I kind of flaked on that, so I apologize. But there are some questions in there, and we'll do those ones, and then we'll go from there. Okay, and then we'll open it up to all you guys here on YouTube. Okay, I'm just going to share that here. You can see that screen. Okay, so there's not too many of these here. First question is coming from Johnson. I got a quarter acre I rented for $100 a year in a zone 5B. This summer, all I managed to do was put a 30 by 50 foot tarp down for some weed control, and the rest is overgrown with shoulder high prairie grasses and weeds. I will slash some of that with a machete for cover crop / mulch, I guess. I really have no idea what the F I'm doing. This is my second year gardening. Last year I did some container plants on a porch. Anyways, what seeds should I plant where the tarp has been all summer? I intend to garden year round. I will build tunnels and a greenhouse eventually. What is the best fall plantings for sandy loam soil? Obviously, I need to prepare some beds. I'm thinking I can squeeze out about 7 beds, I think you're referring to, or 7 rows on a 30-inch by 25 foot where the tarp was. Maybe broadcast some seeds where I slash grasses down and see what happens. Anyways, for the rows, I'm thinking carrot, spinach, radish, beets, potatoes, onions, whatever can survive the cold, I guess. I don't know if that's enough context. Somewhat scatterbrained. Also, there is 1 hour north of my domicile. I'm a driver and it's along my route. I can stop there for a few hours at a time, 2 to 3 times a week. Is it possible to work something out with these variables? How should I quickly prepare the beds and do what you recommend I plant? And what do you recommend I plant? What should I focus on considering my time restrictions? My immediate goal is personal food independence. So I would say, you said you're a zone 5B. You definitely can't plant carrots. There's no way you'll see those will get mature. You can't plant that much right now, to be honest, Johnson. You could plant some overwinter. You could plant spinach if you had it under cut. Like I just planted spinach in my garden just a couple days ago, but I'm going to cover it with a low tunnel, and it will be something that I'll be getting in probably by the end of October. It'll be, as long as the weather stays reasonable, have it by the end of October and throughout the winter. I wouldn't plant, unless you're in a greenhouse, I wouldn't plant much else. Like radishes, yeah, you could probably do some radishes, but it's pushing it. Like spinach is good. I think my last planting of radishes actually is normally early September. Spinach works. Beets, forget about it. Potatoes, no way. Onions, no way. None of that stuff will work in your zone unless you're in a greenhouse. And even then, I would say only spinach, radish, lettuce you could direct seed in a greenhouse. But in the field, you can't really do much, to be honest there, dude. You got to I would just, if I were you, I would focus on building infrastructure this year and then worry about crops next year. I think you kind of missed the window of having a good chance to getting anything worthwhile in the ground. And then, yeah, like I wouldn't really worry about your field much now. I'd focus on building infrastructure, build a post-harvest area. I mean, if your main thing is food independence and not to make money at this, it's still worthwhile to have an area, if you're leasing that plot, that you can sit under cover, so shade, out of the rain, whatnot. So maybe build yourself a little lean-to structure or something like that. But you don't need much else, really. It depends. You didn't totally state if you're looking to do this for a career or you're doing it for just homesteading. I would say if you're going to do it for a career, start building more infrastructure, develop the post-harvest infrastructure, get the salad greens washing station and the tables set up, get all that kind of stuff set up. And that's work you can do undercover when it's raining and whatnot. And the field prep isn't going to be much of a big deal. I mean, certainly if you wanted to get a bit more of that land into production. You could mow, till, and then tarp another area as well. But yeah, a lot of it depends on what. Yeah. Peter says you can plant garlic. Yeah, that's true. You can plant garlic. But if you're a quarter acre, depends what you want to do. If it's a quarter acre for homesteading, yeah, plant a few beds of garlic for sure. We will be. We plant lots of garlic each year. But if you're making a living, garlic, I dedicate more land to quicker growing salad greens and things like that, baby root vegetables, than I would garlic on that small of a land base. But I hope that gives you some food for thought there. Next question from Nuno Silva. Hey, Curtis from Portugal. How are you doing? I'm doing great. I want to suggest to you to follow a cooperative farm here in Portugal called Hedrade. Well, man, I cannot pronounce Portuguese at all, so I won't even attempt to. You guys can see it in the screen cast there. It is a model of farming one day I would like to do. Check out on YouTube and Instagram. The climate zone of this farm is severe due to the absence of rain for long periods. It is on a region called Alagentio. This region is a big producer of cork, one of the biggest in the world. I'm sure many farms suffer from the same situation. They have a model that may work for zones that have little rain. As a from the field follower, I want to ask, when you go to visit Wise Earth for an interview, can you ask with some detail how many worms and how many days until it's finished they operate the supercharged the Johnson Sioux bioreactor? And when will I visit Cohen Farm? Okay, John. It's funny. John Hofer was just here minutes ago. Before he's demoing some tools for me that I'm making, and okay, I can ask John there next time I go. At Cohen Farm, I visited Cohen Farm this summer. That video was supposed to come up this week, but I bumped it to put Stefan's up instead because I'm having a big birthday party here this weekend, and so I had a lot to prepare. So Stefan's videos were already mostly like they were batch edited, so I was able to kind of throw it together a little quicker than Cohen Farm. But I'm saying right now, Cohen Farm will be next week. Next Friday, and there'll be 2 weeks in a row with Cohen Farm. So that's already on the radar. And yeah, but I appreciate that. And I will look into that stuff and I'll check out those farms you mentioned in Portugal. It sounds pretty cool. Thanks for your question. Next question from Farm Anywhere. Oh, from Langley. Okay. Hey, Curtis, how do you go about finding what kind of certifications or permits? Oh, my favorite question. How do you go about finding certifications or permits are needed to be able to grow and sell? I find MVC. So just do it. Don't even ask about permits. None of that stuff matters. For selling, there are none, really. There's like GAP certification is not forced. Neither is the CFIA. You're asking about the Canadian Food Inspection Agency. They're not even a legitimate, I mean, you don't have to believe me, but I'll tell you, they're not even a legitimate Canadian arm of government, and they have no jurisdiction. It's all voluntary compliance. It says that right in their mandate on the website. When the CFIA, and this is actually something I'm going to be talking to this guy, Cal Washington, about, because this is a thing that a lot of people don't realize in this country, in Canada, is laws aren't really laws unless the Queen has signed off on them. And that means that there's a thing called a certified true copy of the Act that either exists in Victoria or in Ottawa. And if there isn't that, the Act is illegitimate. And the CFIA is one of those. When these guys tried to shake me down a couple of years ago, and I asked them, I said 3 things, because they said, we want to come and inspect your farm, because this is when I was doing commercial microgreens for retail. And they said, we want to come inspect your farm. And I said, okay. Usually when the government comes at you, it's an offer. And I said, okay, I'll accept the offer. You can come, but these are the conditions. I need the certified true copy of the Act. So I need you to send that to me. I need all the paperwork showing that you have the ability to act under Her Majesty in good faith, so that you have jurisdiction over me to act on as a representative of the Queen, which is how Canadian government works. And then I said, I want a consulting fee of $250 an hour for my time. And they said, sorry, we can't give you those things. And they never bothered me again. So I think they're a BS organization and they don't have any jurisdiction. But even if you don't believe what I say, and I understand that most people won't believe that and they'll think that I'm nuts, and that's okay. You're not required to do any of that. Like when I got into farming, I didn't do any of the stuff that you're talking about. When I wanted to have a business, I didn't have a business license for farming. You don't need one unless you're selling at a place, like unless you open a retail location. It's actually quite easy to get into vegetable farming in BC, especially if you don't own land. If you own ALR land and all that, that's a whole other can of worms. But if you just want to grow produce and sell it, you don't need to worry about any of the stuff. Just do it. Just go and do it. And I'm not being an anarchist telling you that. I'm just telling you that's actually the way it is. And most other farmers would agree. The GAP certification thing is a private thing. It's not needed unless you want to sell. Now, if you want to sell to any of the retail outlets that are under the Buy Low Foods banner, which is the Jim Pattison group, which is now Choices, Nesters, Nature's Fair, Save On Foods. It's huge. They own the majority of grocery stores in this province now. They want GAP certification, but GAP isn't that hard to do, actually. It's not that big of a deal. You have to do it for each product you sell, but it's not that difficult. You can download the manual off their website and just go through the protocols. It's not that hard, actually. People get intimidated by these things, but they're not that big of a deal. So yeah, I hope that gives you some context there. If you're in Langley, Farm Anywhere, I'm not sure who this is. Reach out to Heidi Campbell at Campbell Valley Farms. She maybe do some consulting with her for a day. She's right in your area. She's right in Langley. Scott Hebert too. He might be able to help you, but yeah, don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. So that's it for the from the field question. So I'll just stop that share and then check out the what you guys are saying in YouTube here. Okay, let me just hide that. We under natural, not common law, wealth law, right? You're nuts. Makes me want to move to Canada. Oh, I didn't know they had cowboys up north. Oh man, we got tons of cowboys up here. Yeah, that's kind of what it is. Like, James Walker talking about a warrant. Yeah, and you know what? American law is very similar. Except you guys are better in some ways and worse in other ways. It depends who you ask and where you are. Like I own a business in the U.S. and I've been through, I counted the other day, 43 U.S. states. I've been in the majority of the continental U.S. and Canada has some BS, like we don't have free speech, which sucks, but we actually pay less tax than most states in the US, especially like the bad ones like California and New York State. We're not even close to the amount of taxes they pay there. But yeah, it's good and bad. I mean, yeah, the warrant thing. I mean, the way it seems like to get these cronies off your back is just kill them with paperwork. Just throw paperwork at them. And that's how you do it. It's back and forth. And anytime the government comes at you something, it's an offer. And so, again, I'm not an expert on these things, but I'm going to be talking to somebody who is. And I don't know if I'll put. We'll see. I want to put it on YouTube, but part of me, to be honest, is kind of scared to like get into some of that stuff. I follow a number of content creators who are like right down the rabbit hole with that stuff, and their lives have been kind of miserable. Like, so is it worth it? Is it worth it to basically tell the government to go screw themselves, but then have potentially be thrown in prison? And I don't know. But when we talk about the CFIA and stuff like that, that's not an issue. That's not what we're talking about. I'm kind of touching on things that I can tell some people who are commenting in here understand. Yeah, Denton Woods knows. Cal Washington's amazing. He's a super cool guy. Oh, what does my shirt say? Oh yeah, I got a bunch of these shirts. Turn in your arms. The government will take care of you. And for those of us in North America, Canada, or the US, we know how that went for the natives, don't we? Has anybody? Okay, I wasn't going to talk about this, but I want to talk about it. Has anybody followed that Greta Thunberg young woman and find that this hysteria absolutely insane? I don't think I can call myself an environmentalist. I don't think I'm not an environmentalist anymore. Ever since I found out about all the communist stuff amongst environmentalism, and the more I've actually started to look at the real science of climate change, the more it drives me crazy. And this fear mongering, they're hammering and that young girl, I feel sorry for her. Like, she's being abused by her parents. She's being manipulated by some people, and it's sad. It makes me sick that children are being told that the world's going to end in 10 years. I mean, it's been bad for a long time, and I bought into it for my entire teenage and adult life. I bought into it. And I used to suffer from what I call eco despair. And that is worse now. I mean, I was looking at some stuff about the anxiety rates in kids these days, and it's like, this is sick. It's absolutely terrible what they're doing. And when you look at the actual science of climate change, guys, like, and I would encourage you to do so and stop looking at the IPCC. Those guys only report on human caused things. So they don't look at the rest of the world and what actually creates carbon in the world. And they just look at human things. So it's like 1% of 99%. Check out a guy named Dr. Tim Ball. Go on YouTube, put in Dr. Tim Ball. He does this talk. It's 47 minutes. It's unbelievable. He goes through every single talking point that gets hammered into our heads from the mainstream media, and he dispels everything. And this guy's a climatologist. He lived in the Arctic and worked there for 6 years. I mean, some of the stuff was amazing. Like one thing he said that was so, it's amazing how, like, they can tell a lie, but they just tell it over and over and over and over again. It's like what Hitler said, just tell a lie over and over again, and then it just becomes truth. The one thing that I found fascinating is we hear about, yeah, good on you for homeschooling. That's what you got to do. With the Arctic, I love this one. So they say the Arctic's melting, and there's actually some truth to that. But what they don't tell you is, in grade 8 science, you learn that when ice melts. So you fill up this glass with ice, right? And say we fill it up to here. When it melts, it actually goes down. Why? Because ice actually contracts when it melts. Have you ever seen a horizontal view of an iceberg? 90% of it or more is underwater. So you got the iceberg. That's kind of, I think that's where the saying the tip of the iceberg comes from. So you got the iceberg up here, and then underwater it's like this. So if the Arctic were to melt, the water would actually go down. It's insane that nobody ever, like, what the hell? That's grade 8 science. Another one he said that was mind-blowing to me, it was the weather stations. And so this guy worked in weather stations all around the world. And did you know less than 10% of the world has weather stations? So the deserts, the huge mountainous areas, the oceans, there's no weather stations in there. So they're coming up with all these doom and gloom models based on what? Based on what data? They have less than 10% of actual data from the world, yet they're coming to these conclusions that the world's going to be over in 10 years. It's absolutely insane. The amount of lies that have been spun with this stuff is unbelievable. And so I would never make the claim that there's nothing that we shouldn't do anything about protecting the environment. We absolutely should. But why would we get a big government in Europe to do that? It's like monoculture. That's the thing that drives me crazy about all this climate change hysteria, and seeing all these children that are absolutely mortified that the world is ending. But it's bullshit, because I've been hearing it since I was 12 years old, and it never happened. Go and look at all the Time magazine covers. You can just Google this or use DuckDuckGo. That's what I use. But you can look at all the covers of Time magazine and the fear mongering they've been hammering. And it's the same actors. It's the same people that lie you into war and all this stuff. And they're just hammering this. It just drives me crazy. It is. It's fear to control the masses. And it's starting to make me sick. And the thing that really kind of pisses me off, because I'm really passionate about environmental issues and specific ones, like plastic, fertilizers running down rivers, and like these are all localized issues that can be fixed on a local level. But the thing that pisses me off about this is that eventually this stuff's going to come out, and it already is. That's why most people actually don't buy the BS. But it's going to make people think that all environmental issues are bullshit. And I don't think that's good, because I think we should be concerned about the environment, and we should do things to be better stewards of the earth. But we should do them on a local level and not have these bureaucrats in Europe say, oh, send us trillions of dollars and we'll create policy and do all this and that and the other to fix it. And it's not going to do anything. It's just global government. That's all they're doing, is they want control. I mean, the Europeans have been trying to control America since the 1776. Like, I'm not the biggest on American history too. Somebody's going to correct me on that. But that's been a fight forever. In my opinion, that's what this is. This is just the Europeans trying to control the Americans. And you guys, my American viewers, Canada's screwed. Canada's been in on this since the beginning. We had Maurice Strong, who was part of the Club of Rome, which were the ones that actually, with Rockefeller, which came up with this whole scam. And it's just another way to control people. That's all it is. It's just a big shakedown. Go check out Dr. Tim Ball. This guy will blow your mind. I just put him in there. Just search him on YouTube. And we are under the control of the oil cartel. We're under control of a lot of cartels, man. It isn't just oil. The banks, I think, are at the heart of it. The big financiers. Oil is whatever. The thing that really pissed me off, seeing that Greta woman go bonkers at the UN, was, well, for one, I think she's faking. She's just an actor. But is that how entitled this idea that telling young people to flip their lids, and she's sitting there, I should be at home and you're causing me all this grief. It's like, how entitled, how dare you? We are living in an absolute era of abundance. And unfortunately, for people who really hate on carbon and oil, that's a lot of that has to do with oil, whether you like it or not. Like, look, I live in a solar powered home. I drive a Tesla. I grow all my own food. I'm as green as you'll rarely meet somebody who's as green as I am. But I recognize the fact that part of the reason we have so much material wealth in this world is because of the resource of oil. Like, come on, let's be honest. It's just to just wave your hand and say screw you to all these people like they've done you harm. It's like you've got nothing but a world of a golden road paved in front of you, and you're sitting here condemning all these adults. It's so sick. It drives me crazy. Man, you guys in the flat earth stuff, man, I just can't get into it. I just, like, show me a picture. Show me a picture of the flat earth. Like, I read the 200 puffs. I have it. Where is it? I should prove to you that I've read the damn thing, and I just it's insane. Seeing photo of Greta Faker bird with George Soros. Faker, who knows? I wouldn't be surprised, Let's talk about red wigglers. Okay, Eve, tell me what you want to talk about with red wigglers. Yeah, I remember ClimateGate, man. I read it. I read the ClimateGate emails, and Tim Ball gets into that. He actually goes through them, and he just lays it all out, and it's just such BS. Yeah, I don't know what you want to talk about red wigglers. They're available. Next is aliens. Yeah, it's just a perfect thing. It's just the perfect thing to control. Remember that speech that George W. Bush gave where he was like, if we just had something that could unite us, an alien race was attacking us. Oh, no, that was Reagan. That's what this climate change thing is. It's just another... Yeah. The whole thing with the flat earth, I just don't care. I'm just like, whatever. It makes no difference. It makes no difference in my life. Dale Gray, Banks Catholic Church, backside of the District of Columbia. Absolutely, dude. Totally. I've gone down the rabbit hole with legalese. Actually, one of you guys turned me on to this guy's YouTube channel, the Justina. What's it called? I've been listening to his stuff like crazy. It's fantastic. I follow a guy. He hasn't published videos in a long time, but he's called Eternally Aware on YouTube, and he's a Canadian guy, and he goes into the legalese stuff. And this guy, yeah, the Justinian deception. It's an Australian guy. He gets right into the corporate law stuff, and I find the stuff fascinating. It's amazing once you start going down that rabbit hole, if you will, and you start to see how the wool has been pulled over our eyes for so long. It's intriguing as hell. And we've been basically made illiterate so that nobody understands legalese. Legalese is a they used to teach Latin in schools, but they don't anymore. And I think part of the reason is to make people ignorant to it. Red Winglers, change the subject. Can we talk about how far into winter we can grow Salanova lettuce? You can grow it all year, dude. Depends on your zone. I just planted Salanova here in my garden beds inside this greenhouse, and this greenhouse is mostly passive, but it's heated. If we get below, if I'm below -10 Celsius outside, the heat will come on because I want to keep it at least. I'm actually gonna heat it less this year. When I visited with Jane Squire in Salt Spring Island, which I haven't published her video yet, by the way. But when I do, she talks about that. She keeps her greenhouse at about 10 Celsius. And actually, it's good for the citrus. So I'm going to try that this year. So, yeah. How's the Northern Lights? It's good. Yeah, the Northern Lights is good. I just finished it. I lost a lot of plants. Let me say I've lost a good amount. I don't want to say exact numbers, but I've lost a good amount because of the damn rain. We've been just hammering rain. It's finally sunny today, but it's been raining all day, and it poured rain last night. So this is one of the challenges with growing, and especially the later blossoming varieties in the fall here outdoor, is your buds will rot in the rain, and I've lost pounds of bud from rain. But it's all good. I've got lots, so it's all good. But yeah, the haze, it's good. It's an indica. Somebody said in one of my videos that I said it was sativa. I don't remember saying that, but if I did, that was a mistake. It is an indica, and I'm more of a sativa guy. At least if we're to smoke in the daytime, for sure. I don't mind indica at night when I'm chilling. But how's the ginger doing? It's good. It's right behind me here. Well, you guys would have saw the video I planted. It's in this bed right here. It's doing really good. I got to keep it well watered. John Hofer was here playing board games with me last night, playing Agricola, and he was like, "Oh man, you got to keep that more watered." So I'm keeping it super moist now. Dean Paddock, what do you think about wood boilers for heat in a large greenhouse? I think they're terrible, to be honest. I think it's terrible. It's so much work. Just gas is so much easier. Electric, if you're on solar, electric's good too, but usually gas ends up being cheaper for the like propane or if you can just pipe in natural gas, it's just so much more practical. Like I know there's certainly a prepper case for doing wood, and I get that, but they're just a lot more extra work. I got a video coming out with Rob Avis probably in October. I was at his place in Calgary last week, and we were looking at he built a rocket mass heater, and this guy is like super into rocket mass stuff, but he was like, this is too much work. You got to come out here constantly. So I think that's important if you want to have a lifestyle off your farm, or just like even when you're not running out to the greenhouse every 2 hours. So yeah. Nuno Silva, Curtis, have you considered to visit Aromatic Herbs Farm? Oh, Aromatic Herbs Farm? Yeah, I have actually. There's a couple on my list. Mads Rubake in Denmark, the paper pot is not accepted in organic farming because of the glue in the paper cells. Do you know if they're thinking of canceling it, or you mean? So yeah, the organic thing. There'll be an answer on it at the end of this year. There'll be an answer. It's either the NOA. Is it the NOA? What the hell is it called? The National Organic Association. Yeah, I think that's what it is. Oh no, NOP. I forget. They're going to have an answer whether they're going to accept it, because there's so many farmers that are leaving organic. So they'll be either that, or our Japanese suppliers will be making an organic paper plot, paper chain, which will be made of hemp, but it's the same glue. Because it's the only reason that it's not organic. The glue isn't toxic in any way. The only reason it's not accepted is because the paper isn't recycled. And but if it was recycled or made of hemp, they would accept it. So that's kind of where it's at. Thanks for all the information, Irina from Ukraine. Hey, thank you. Thanks for saying that. Send us rain, terrible drought in the mountains of Virginia. Really? Hemp's not hard to germinate, Daniel. I've never had a problem with it. Actually, I got some killer. Check it out. I got some other seeds. I'm going to start here. Do I play Settlers of Catan? Absolutely, dude. I crushed Settlers of Catan. I got some AK-47. So that's an auto flower, and I'm actually going to do that over the winter in my greenhouse. You know, a way if you're in Canada, a way you can get around the 4-plant rule, if you really cared about going over that, is you could have auto flowering varieties 4 at a time, many different times throughout the year. So you could probably have like 16 plants at different times. So that's one way you could cheat it. Auto flowering, do that. I got some lemon skunk auto flower. I'm going to do that. And then I got some auto flower and white widow. So those 3 puppies I'm going to start next. And then I thought I had another one here. No, I guess that's it. So yeah, so we're cropping out. We're going to be successioning the cannabis crop. So auto flowers. James Walker, you're woke. I don't know, man. I don't know about that. Whenever I hear that term woke, it's like social justice warriors. So if it's that, I'm not woke. Definitely not. If you mean woke as in I see a lot of the stuff going on with the government and the corporate government and how it works, yeah, absolutely. I'm woke with that stuff. I've been researching it for a long time. It takes 3 years to get certified in the US for organic labels with them crawling on your farm. Yeah, it's insane. I know. Any tips on crushing Settlers of Catan? Yeah, man. Wheat and ore. That's my strategy. I go wheat and ore. I just build cities as early as I can, and then I can leverage that because of the higher income to trade. So I don't even necessarily worry about getting all resources right off the bat. If I can get wheat and ore and get in the city game early, it's good to get some wood and brick too, but I've followed that strategy. It's worked quite well for me for a while. My buddy Chris just crushes it. He smoked us last night in Agricola. You guys, I think I did a vid. Did I do a video on this? I did a video on this game. It's so cool because it's a strategy game where everybody has a homestead, and then there's a shared board, whereas like you take actions on, and so like, okay, somebody takes the go fishing action, nobody else can take that. Somebody takes the harvest wood action, nobody can take that. But you have to grow your family, and it's brilliant as far as like I can't wait to teach this to my daughter when she's old enough. But like it's all about setting up a framework of infrastructure that becomes sort of passive income, and then you leverage that to always have income to feed your family, and then you can take other actions to stack on top of that. It's really cool. It's very like permaculture thinking too, if you will, but also very capitalist thinking as well, in that you need to have infrastructure to have passive income. Like, I remember Tony Robbins said, I heard a long time ago. I mean, I've been following Tony Robbins since I was 16. And he said the first thing you got to do is get enough passive income to pay all your bills. So your mortgage or your rent, your food bills, all that. And then once you get that, you can start leveraging your external abilities to take risks on other things. And that's what I did. I've had enough passive income to pay the mortgage on my house and all of my like living expenses for a long time. Like I did that probably the year that I wrote my book, I achieved that. And then from there, I was able to do other things. And so that's how I was able to start a business with Diego Fooder, get into Paper Pot Co. Start taking, when I built from the field.farm, it was a huge investment of time. And I had to stop everything else. Like when I built from the field and started doing that, I stopped all my public speaking and all my consulting. So I dropped two huge income sources. Like my public speaking income when I was at the height of it, like a year ago, exceeded all other revenue streams that I had. And when I was farming, I had 9 sources of revenue on top. Farming was just one, but I'm not even farming now. And so from the field has replaced that. So I have all these other sources of income, but yeah, it's all about setting up passive incomes. I mean, I'm talking about the game. I'm talking about Agricola here, but it's cool because it really makes you see how you can use these tools and techniques in life and in business. Any farms in Michigan I'd recommend? No, not off the top of my head. No. But Michigan isn't far from Wisconsin. Vitruvian is amazing. Oh no, Michigan. Brian Bates. Brian Bates, man. He's in northern Michigan. He's like an hour south of Canada, of Sault Ste. Marie. I went and checked out Brian Bates. If you're in from the field, check out Bear Creek's video, man. The dude's absolutely crushing it in a very rural community too. General questions from the field. No, I'm just taking YouTube questions now. Gab, we did the from the field questions. There was only 3. Let me just double check that there's not more now, because I was late posting that damn thing, and I apologize again to from the field members. Yeah, so there's still not any up there. So, whoops. So we're hanging out. Yeah, Bear Creek. We play Settlers of Catan weekly here in Afghanistan, and I've crushed it the last few weeks. Rad. I was big into the war strategy games when I was younger. Like I've been into these games since I was 10 years old. Like I got into playing Dungeons and Dragons. I think the first game I got into was Risk when I was like 10. No, it was Monopoly. Really got into Monopoly, and then when we were like 10, 11, 12, we made our own versions of Monopoly. Like I remember we cut out this huge piece of cardboard and made this like hyper expanded game of Monopoly that had extra rules and would take like 2 days to play. And then we got really into Risk. And then I got into all these war strategy games like Shogun and Axis and Allies. And I have a great one called Conquest of the Empire. It's outdated, actually. I got it from my grade 12 comparative civilizations teacher. And I still play it actually every now and then. But I really like the war strategy games. But there's something about war, especially as I'm a parent now, that I'm like, okay, I don't really want to play war games with my kids. I mean, maybe we will at some point, but I still kind of like them. But I like these games that are like strategic about things like, I like Catan. It's like resource management. And this game, Agricola, is like really all about like leveraging and passive things. Anybody out there played the Robert Kiyosaki game, Cash Flow? I've been wanting to play that for a long time. It looks really cool. Are we witnessing the systematic destruction of the old guard? Will power return to people? Where we go all QAnon stuff. I don't know. The thing with the QAnon stuff is like, it seems to be a lot of faith in government. I don't have faith in government. And so I don't know. I kind of wonder about that stuff. Like, I have faith in people. And that's where I want to put my faith, is in individuals. And, That's why we grow a lot of our own food, and we'll continue to do so. And the system will do what it does, but I want to try to achieve more and more independence. A big problem with like really, I think the ultimate way to change the system would be to, who is the author that said this? This great guy wrote this great book. He said, walk away from the king. In Canada, it would be walk away from the queen. But if we could just stop participating. But you can't use a bank. You can't get money if you don't have a SIN number or a birth certificate. And so, I don't know, man. I don't have all the answers. Just knowing yourself and letting the exterior disturb the interior too much. Eat right, grow your own food, and hitting a high level of independence. That is woke to me. Totally, James. I'm with you 100%, man. 100%. Gabriella, Age of Empires. I used to play that when I played computer games. I don't play video games anymore. Mostly because I don't want our kids. We have another kid coming very soon. We don't want our kids engaged in technology until they're older. And we've come to that conclusion from a lot of research. So our kids won't be on social media. My wife and I don't use social media anymore. Though I might outsource mine actually for content and have somebody else manage it. But we don't want our kids on devices. We don't want our kids playing that stuff. There's too much propaganda and brainwashing happening in there that I don't want my children using those things. And so, yeah, you are pretty keen on that SIN number or birth certificate. Yeah, and well, it depends what you mean, but no, I'm not. CBC got a live event and you got more viewers. I love to hear that. Man, the CBC pissed me off. I used to know everybody in that office, and they used to be so nice to me until they found out I was a libertarian, and then they hate me. Yeah, they don't give me any love anymore. It's funny. Venus Project, sounds like communism to me. And I was really I remember when that first movie, what's it called? What's his name? Joseph. What's his name? Help me out. I don't vape, no. The guy who made that movie that the Venus Project thing came from. What the hell? Why can't I think about it? Anyways, I got into those movies when they first came out. Like, he kind of called out the Federal Reserve. I thought that was really interesting. And then he kind of like explained some stuff with the Catholic Church. I thought that was really interesting. But then he went full on to this Venus Project thing with this what's his name guy? Man, I can't think about it. Zeitgeist. Thank you. Yes, Zeitgeist movie. Jacques Fresco was the guy, right? I think the technology is cool. I think his ideas are cool, but like, yeah, Peter Joseph, that's right. But it's like Marxism with robots. Like, how are you going to implement that stuff? If you could implement that stuff in a free market, in that you got together with some individuals and said, we're going to build this community, we're going to do this, and it's going to be a shining example of this project, I'm like, yeah, all in. I would even check it out. But if you are to say, we're going to create a world without money and we're going to force that on everybody, no way. That's the money masters would love that, because then they could control everything too. It's all the same. So I don't know. I think I've read too much of the Gulag Archipelago and read way too much about communism and stuff, that I don't think collectivism is the solution in any way. I think independence is the way. I think the American framework is actually the best. Like the Constitution is a divine document. It really is. It's just that it's no longer used in the U.S., unfortunately. But I think that's where farmers need to be more independent. Farmers need to stop thinking like farm animals and start thinking like farmers, and start thinking about their independence, and that they shouldn't be farmed by other people. And that's what I'm constantly seeing, is farmers being pushed around by bureaucrats and corporations, and I'm sick of it. So anyways, hey, Curtis, I'm in North Texas, rural. 5 out of my 20 acres are open pasture. I want to make money growing something. I don't know where to start. Any advice? Dude, Catherine, that's a massive question. You got a lot of possibilities. I'll say that. Too many. Start small. Start small. Start with a very small amount of land. You don't need to use all of it. And yeah. Crypto Geek, can you grow weed and sell it to distributors in Canada? I can't. I don't have a license to do it. I grow just for myself, and Christmas presents for my friends. But you could, somebody can. Yeah, you can do that if you want to go through all the licensing and all that. Watch your nursery video. Did you ever upgrade to a vacuum seeder? No, I haven't. We got a great product coming out that's going to be a big solution for that, though. I'll tell you that. Curtis, you know about the Swiss government arrangement? A little bit, yeah. The cantons, yeah, it's pretty cool. I think the Swiss have a neat system. It's pretty neat. I like the whole canton system and how localized it is. I think that's kind of cool. I'm not anti-government. I'm just anti-force, and so if it depends. So it depends on how you define government. If government, because my ideal, if I could do it, and I've wanted to do it for years, is to set up my own community, to set up my own totally off-grid community that grows its own food, produces its own energy, does all that stuff. That's been my dream since I was like 10 years old. And I'd love to make that happen at some point. There's a lot of details on how you do that kind of thing, right? So, and I think you need to have some kind of governing structure for sure. And that's totally practical. And in a private thing, I think that would be great. I mean, I think that I support guys like Maxime Bernier in Canada because the conversation of freedom, I think, is important, especially for farmers. It's very important. And those conversations need to happen so that the needle gets moved back towards freedom, more freedom and not less freedom. Whereas, our liberals and even our conservatives and our NDP and Green, they're all socialists. Even the conservatives are socialists. They're all about big government programs. And that's not good for farmers. I wish more farmers would recognize that we are shooting ourselves in the foot every time we vote and get behind these big government programs, whether it's climate change policy, sustainable development, things like that. These do not bode well for farmers, people who live on the land. These things work against our own best interests. And I just wish more people would see that. It drives me crazy because I'm passionate about sustainability in the true sense of the word, or regenerative agriculture. And I'm passionate about a lot of these things, but I'm not passionate about bureaucrats taking care of it for us. This is our problem as individuals, and we can solve it. But paying more taxes to financiers in Europe is not going to do anything but restrict our own freedoms in the long run. Daniel's saying, we need to talk then. I have an idea of a community I call Rise with its own cryptocurrency. I think we did talk about this, didn't we? Didn't you email me about this once? Yeah, it's a neat idea. I think the way that these things have to happen is you just have to have somebody who bankrolls it. Because getting together with a bunch of people and going, okay, let's all start this community. I've been involved in so many hundreds of conversations like that over the last 15 years. And it never goes anywhere. Whereas if you have somebody who has some cash and can throw down and say, okay, I'm just going to start. And then you guys can kind of come along and buy in as investors or something like that. Then maybe you can do it that way. I think the way to do it. I think the way to do it is through business. Because one of the problems is it's one thing to say, okay, I'm going to be this anarchist farmer. I'm going to go out into the bush and do all this stuff. And you're going to need cash for that. So let's say you want to use cryptocurrency. Okay, that's great. But how far can you take that? You can't buy land with cryptocurrency yet. You need cash. You need to convert to cash. So if you convert to cash, that means you're going to pay income tax on that money. And if you're using income tax to buy land and all this other infrastructure, you're getting screwed. You're getting so screwed because you're making money, paying income tax on that money, and then taking that money to invest in something that's long-term for you. The way all the cronies do it is they do it through businesses. And then that way you can write things off, right? So you got to make your homestead into a business in some way or another. It could be agritourism. Like I'm starting to come up with this idea of ecotourism or eco-ag tourism, where you would have this homestead site. And I've consulted on dozens of projects like that. It's almost a cliche. I'm excited about it because I know how to do these kinds of things, and I have the skills, and I've had enough experience working with people to see what works and what doesn't. But I would totally, buy hundreds of acres. It's got to be a location that's a destination. It's got to be beautiful and have like yurts in different places, and then do super elite tourism events that kind of bankroll it. And then that way you can write everything off, right? You can build stuff and you can write it off because it's a business expense. That's what I would do. And that's what I would like to do. But I'm not there yet. I got a bunch of other projects to do in the meantime. I was part of Paul Wheaton's Ant Village for about 6 weeks in 2017. If you start a community, don't be the Duke. Absolutely. The Duke, more like the douche of permaculture. Yeah, I'm not into this like crowning thing. That's so lame. That's so lame. The guru thing. I'm the guru. I don't know Paul. I met him briefly at Permaculture Voices once, and he seems like an all right guy. But I've just heard all this kind of stuff about him, and so whatever. I'm not going to talk trash. I don't know anything about him, but yeah, I'm not going to be looking to throne myself. Who is John Galt? Thank you very much. We got an Ayn Rand reader here, Paul Diamond. They did that. They tried to do Jeff Berwick, who I know a little bit. I should be speaking at Anarcho Poco in 2021. I couldn't do it 2020 because we've got a new kid coming. But I will be at Anarcho Poco in 2021. I can't believe it's that far in the future. And he started something like that. They called it Galt's Gulch, which is actually from Atlas Shrugged. I don't know something happened with it though. But I would love to get together. Like I've got a lot of friends in the business community who have cash, and I've talked about doing it. Like, it'd be like a $250,000 buy-in, and then basically set up some sort of semi-public infrastructure. You could have a microgrid. So you could have like the main houses on sort of a cul-de-sac, and then everybody's land is kind of behind them. And then so that way you can do a microgrid, have everybody connected to the microgrid for electricity, and then share some common resources, water filtration, water capture, things like that. I love it. It's fascinating stuff to talk about. What else have we got? I watched your video, Dean, talking about the ginger. How does it compare with microgreens? Well, it doesn't compare in the sense like microgreens are a lot of constant work. So yeah, if you're only it depends how you measure things, right? So if you measure your time and inputs and square footage and all that, you need to account for all those things. And so, that was a clickbait title. It is what it is, right? It's just there's a lot of variables. So growing ginger is great. And it is damn profitable. It's damn profitable. Like I was just talking to John because John Hofer from Wise Earth was here last night. We were playing Agricola, and they're selling their ginger so fast. Like they're going to be sold out in like the next month. Like he thought that would get them through the winter, but it's selling so fast. It's low maintenance. It's not a lot of work. It doesn't take a lot of inputs. It does take more than some of the crops, but it just sits there in the ground. So that's worth something because it doesn't take a lot of constant work. Like microgreens. Microgreens, you got to plant and replant and all that. So yeah. Oh, what's this human trafficking here? Creator of Boundless Universe all represents human trafficking under the disguise of premise of human resource. Man, the human trafficking stuff is dark. I think I went a little too far down the rabbit hole with that stuff. One thing that's really rad about Tony Robbins, because I was talking about Tony Robbins earlier, he's part of this, or he funds this organization. I forget what it's called, but it's totally dedicated to ending human trafficking. It's amazing. And they're doing incredible work. And I've seen a bunch of testimonies and stuff from their work. It seems pretty cool. But yeah, that stuff is insane, human trafficking. And That's why that's why the U.S. should build the wall, because there's like thousands of people that get shuttled through there, human trafficked a day. Like, to me, that's like the number one reason that you guys in the States should build that damn wall and end that damn human trafficking. That's a horrible enterprise, and there's a lot of people. Well, very few people making a lot of money on that, and that's sad. Curtis, one more question / comment from Catherine B. You should offer seminars. I'd pay money to learn. I do. I've got come down to Mesa, Arizona, February 3rd, 2020. We're doing that one. I took a year off doing workshops just because I wanted to spend more time with my family, but also build this from the field platform. And it's operating quite well now. So I'm going to start looking into doing more of them. But probably not as many as I used to. Like, I pounded the pavement for the last 6 years doing a lot of public talks, and the traveling it gets tough. Like, I'm trying to do more traveling by car. That's why I bought a Tesla, because it's just far more enjoyable to travel that way, even though it takes longer. So I'm trying, if I can stack things in, like if I can go to a place, do a workshop, film content, and kind of get a bunch of stuff done at once, then I'll do more of it. So it's all got to stack into the grand scheme of things here. Jose from New Mexico. How you doing, brother? Cannabis or hemp? Thoughts on growing? Lots of thoughts on growing. I did a couple videos about it. Got more coming. Gonna do a yield video. So I basically, like, that one Northern Lights plant I did a video on here on YouTube. I think I did that on YouTube. It's all cropped out. It's all dried. So I'm going to do like a weigh in and see, okay, what can you get off this one plant? I'll splice in some footage from before it was harvested. What can you get off one plant? I don't know what it is. We've packed a lot of it up, but I got to weigh it all out and see. Cannabis or hemp. Yeah. Whatever you're into, man. It's up to you. Do you have any farms tours in Texas planned? No, I don't, guys. I don't have any stuff planned except Steadfast Farm. That's the only thing I'm doing. I've been invited to stuff. I get invited to stuff all the time. I got invited to a climate change summit here in Kelowna, and they uninvited me after they heard my opinions about their politics. I thought that was funny. They like the monoculture, right? Like, that's what I find is the most ironic about these sort of left-wing environmentalists, which I used to be. This guy, I'm a hypocrite. I used to be that for a long time, but they only like, they like to say diversity. They like to say we like diversity, but they don't like diversity. They like monoculture. They only like people who parrot the exact narrative that they want to use to get more government funding for their programs, potential job opportunities in other government wings or bureaucracies. The whole thing drives me crazy. It's just so corrupt, right down to the bottom. Here's a farming question. Oh, I just lost it. Where is it? William was saying about Arizona. Where the hell is it? Oh, sorry, William. It's hard to keep track of these damn chats. You bought into Galt's Gulch? Truth Unleashed. I bought into Galt's Gulch, got screwed by Kevin Johnson, who was in charge of it. Really? Dude, tell me more. Crazy. Wow, that sucks. Sorry to hear that, man. That sucks. It's too bad when people do shitty business. It sucks. Really sucks. I've always tried just to do right by everybody, you know, like sometimes you make mistakes and I always try to fix them and make sure nobody gets screwed under my watch. That's terrible. Shannon Rastian, hopefully doing an off-grid setup in a couple years after we make some money through market gardening here outside of Fort Worth. I'm glad for my experience at the Ant Village for sure. Oh, that's cool. That's good to know. Curtis, here in Portugal, a lot of corruption and the high level. Is Canada the same? Oh God, yeah. Canada's so corrupt. Justin Trudeau, have you seen this blackface thing? It's so funny. It's so funny because it's like, I don't think anybody thinks Trudeau is racist. I don't. Like, I'm not sitting here. I'm not the kind of person that really cares if somebody's racist, really. Like, Is it a real thing that people are worried about? I don't know. But it's just how hypocritical it was that here's a guy who's on his high horse calling everybody else a racist and a sexist and a homophobe and a transphobe, yet he seems to have an obsession with blackface. It's just so funny. I can't believe he's still our prime minister. It's absolutely insane. But yeah, that's politics, right? Permaculture for profit community in northeastern Quebec. Let's start. Well, dude, I'm never moving to Quebec. I love Quebec. There's so many great places I love. But I'm happy where I am. And the one thing that's neat about our province is if you actually get into the sort of the common law stuff, the treaties were never signed in BC. Like 99% of BC is actually what's called unceded land. And you actually, it's funny, you hear social justice warriors kind of virtue signal about this stuff. You go to these sort of government events and then they get up and they do these land, I think they're called land proclamations or something like that, where they stand and they go, we want to acknowledge that we're on Indigenous land, this and this, that, and the other. And I've always thrown it away as sort of, you know, meaningless virtue signaling, which it is when those people are saying it, but there's actually some truth in what they're saying, in that in British Columbia, it is unceded. Like the province of British Columbia, for the most part, doesn't actually exist. Like where I'm sitting right now, I'm in the Okanagan Nation, or it's called there's another name for it. Canada actually doesn't exist here, technically, if you look at the treaties and stuff. And so it's actually interesting. I think if more people, especially farmers and sort of liberty-minded people, got together, there could be a real movement, call it a secession movement, in BC, because the treaties were never signed. And there's actually no jurisdiction. So it's pretty neat. It's pretty neat. And I'm still learning a lot about this stuff. I'm not an expert on it at all. Here's William's question. Hey, Curtis from Phoenix, Arizona. What would an acre yield and how long to harvest? What an acre? Well, depends. You said thanks, ginger. Are you talking about ginger as a crop? An acre of ginger would be a lot. In Arizona, though, I don't know if it might be the best. You'd have to really use greenhouses to do that, because you'd have to keep your humidity high and your water high. Growing ginger in Arizona might not be the best. Certainly in a small market garden, you could do it, but an acre of it might not be great. You paid your Peter. You paid your dues. Enjoy more what you love. Hey, thanks, man. I appreciate that, and I feel the same way. I feel like I have paid my dues, and I don't care that people get pissed off when I talk politics. Like, I know I'm not gonna. It's not my focus, but like, I appreciate when people say things like that, because they recognize the hard work that I've done to get to where I am. And if I want to have a little bit of fun and have some conversations that go a little outside of the norm, I'm going to do that. And if people don't like it, then tough shit. I've certainly had some haters, but the majority not. Like I did a video with Maxime Bernier a while ago, and I had the comments disabled on YouTube at that time. And I got about 20 emails about that video. And so when somebody emails me, there's more value in that than there's a comment. Because like, to email somebody is to kind of expose yourself, because like you exposing your email, you're kind of standing out a bit more. I had 20 emails on that. One was negative. One was somebody who was really butthurt about the fact that I'm a libertarian and he thinks I'm evil. I'm just a shitty person because I'm a climate change denier. I'm not a climate change denier. The climate's always changing. It's impossible to deny the climate's changing. But he was so offended, and I was like, well, I guess you got to unfollow me, man. Like, you're offended. Okay, that's your problem. And I get that too. Like I had some really hardcore religious person reach out to me and said the same thing. They're like, it sucks that you swear every now and then. But I'm like, dude, that's on you, man. Like, you're offended. That's on you. It's not on me. What's the best strain for beginners that stuff drinks like water? Oh, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm missing out. Yes, there's a lot of corruption in Canada, but yeah, I mean, there is a lot of corruption in Canada. It's just we don't see it. In sort of like a place like Mexico, you see it everywhere. There's corruption here. It's just it's different. The thing that I've really learned about the West that I really value, because I've traveled quite a bit in Mexico. And is Mexico in the West? I wouldn't say it is, in the sense that, like, in Western countries, like, let's say, any of the most of the Western European countries, most of them, not all of them for sure. And in North America, well, let's just say North America, because I don't really know a lot about Europe. I've been there, but I don't know a ton about it. In North America, it's the default, and that we take this for granted. And when you travel to poorer countries, you realize how valuable it is. But in North America, it's the default that if you do business with somebody, they're going to do what they said they're going to do. That's the expectation, and for the most part, that's what happens. In places like Mexico, it's the opposite. The expectation is the opposite. The expectation is that person's going to screw you, and you should screw them first. And so that means that there's no trust in the community. And we really take that for granted here, in that it's a really lovely thing. Say what you will about the governments and the politicians and all that, the powers that be. But as far as like the commonly shared values amongst people in this country and in the US are really good. And I'm very, very thankful for them. And I wouldn't want to live anywhere else, because I think that is the tie that binds, really, is that it's Christian culture. It's the and I'm not a Christian, but I have a huge appreciation for the Bible and Christianity, particularly, how that's actually written into law. And that's a lot of the things that people don't realize. But that is a valuable thing, a very valuable thing. Okay. Okay, guys, I'm going to wrap it up here soon. Just take a couple more of these quick questions here. Since you aren't farming, what's your 80-20 now? It's well, most of the income I make now actually comes from the field. I still, on publishing, is still good for my book. I didn't do any public speaking or consulting this year. So yeah, it's my content creation is that. It's funny too. I see people like trolling in YouTube comments that are like, "Oh yeah, I bet he makes more money doing workshops and content and all that." It's like, yeah, that's not a secret. I never claimed otherwise. It's like, yeah, man. Well, you think you stumbled onto a conspiracy? Yeah, of course. You can scale those things, right? Like, if I wanted to be just a farmer, I would have stayed as a farmer, and I'd be happy to be making, a net income for myself, $50,000 to $80,000 a year. I was getting that as a farmer, but that's not good enough for me because I have other ambitions in life. So yeah, of course, I make way more money on my online courses and my book and my public speaking. Like, come on, like, of course. It's like, does that make me a sellout? If you think that makes me a sellout, then I don't give a shit. Then have at it. But Dalton, it's the intellectual stuff. It's the content creation from the field has been a real success. It's exceeded all my expectations. It's growing. I'm going to be working with some people coming up here that we're going to grow it even more and do more with it. So I'm super excited about that. I'm not on Instagram anymore, though I probably start using Instagram again to share from the field content. I've been talking to some people who help me with that. Have you ever seen urban farmers farming in their greenhouses during winter in Quebec? Urban farmers in Quebec? I don't know a lot of urban farmers in Quebec. There are those girls. What are they called? Les Farmettes. But they don't like me because they don't like my politics. So I actually wanted to go visit them, but they said they kind of expressed that they weren't interested in talking to me because they don't like my politics. So that's how it is. Curtis, have you kickstart the Richard? No, I haven't read Richard's book. I didn't know Richard had a new book. I have Richard's original Regenerative Ag book. I didn't know he had a new one. I haven't talked to Richard in a while. Moved to Texas, we'd love to have you. If I could move there to Texas based on just like the freedom-loving people, because I love that about Texas, I just don't like the geography. Like, I love the geography where I live. and I maybe because I was born here, I feel connected to the land here. I just love the bioregion that I'm in. I love the mountains. I love being close to forests and fresh water. If it weren't for those things, maybe I would. Dale, can you list all your income streams? Yeah. Publishing. YouTube is fairly insignificant at this point, but it's something. It probably pays the mortgage. My website. Um, I've still done a lot of affiliate marketing with people like Farmer's Friend, and I work with Dubois in Quebec a lot. Um, um, Public speaking, which not this year, but has been significant. Consulting, and did I say online courses? 7. And I've done brand deals and things like that in the past, but that's not a big one. So let's say Paper Pot Co. That's that company's growing like crazy. So there's at least 8 off the top of my head. And so I'm not farming anymore. So that dropped 1. And it's changed a bit this year because I'm not doing public speaking, but I'm not quitting public speaking. I'm going to do more public speaking for sure. So yeah, that's kind of where it's at for me. The biggest one now is from the field for sure. My site, The Urban Farmer, like I have things on there, like my books. Like I make more money on my book when you buy it from me than you buy it on Amazon. And it's more expensive with me. I get that, but I have a way of offering some more value. Like I have that digital tools package and things like that. But I'm not offended if people buy my book on Amazon. I don't care. I appreciate the fact that people want to support my work and are willing to not have quite of a convenient experience and fast to shipping as Amazon. And I appreciate that. But I'm not offended that people don't do it that way or one way or the other. So whatever. Do I listen to Owen Benjamin? I actually do a little bit. I mean, I like Owen. I would actually like to come and help him with his garden because his garden looks a bit hurt actually. um, I do, and he gets on these intense rants that sometimes I'm just like, I don't know. It seems like I don't know. Maybe he went to a dark place for a while, and maybe he's coming back. He did a video about 9/11 recently that I actually thought was brilliant. I think it was last week it came out. I watched the whole thing. It was amazing. He did this analogy of the Princess Bride and used that sort of archetypal character description in that, and then tied that to some of the main players in 9/11. I thought it was brilliant. So I think he's a cool guy. I'd like to help him. If any of you guys know him or follow him, tell him to check me out. I would actually, and he actually lives close to me. I don't know where he lives, and I hope that he doesn't publish his address because he's rattling the cage, and I think he does that. That he doesn't publish his address intentionally. Good for him. But I would totally be willing to go to his place and help him with his garden and his homestead. Because I think what he's doing is kind of cool. I think it's cool. I think it's not for everybody for sure, but yeah, I agree with a lot of what he has to say actually. Texas is hot and humid, perfect for ginger. Totally. It is absolutely. What are your thoughts of putting a greenhouse in a deep ground pool with the depth of the pool? I'm not into that. You're gonna get a lot of shade. If you're at the equator, maybe. I don't get why people are putting these greenhouses in pools. I mean, I get it, but you're not gonna get a lot. You're gonna have a lot of shade because if you have it's deep. It's like the sort of the Wapini greenhouses that went viral for a while, and I was like, why would you put a greenhouse if you live in the northern hemisphere underground, 6 feet underground? That's a shadow that's gonna cast on your ground. Like it doesn't make any sense. So yeah. Yeah, Northern Lights, Chad talking about Northern Lights. It is a great strain. It's amazing. Yeah, so there again about the greenhouse and So I'm in trouble, guys. I gotta go. Thanks for joining me, guys. We'll be back next week. Let me just double check the calendar. Yeah, we'll be back next week. And I got another Steadfast video coming tomorrow on YouTube. And if any of you guys are on my email list, I got a special video that's like an hour long from Steadfast that'll come out in that email tomorrow. So check that stuff out. Come to the workshop. Join from the field.farm. The link is in the show notes if you want to check it out. And yeah, we'll see you all next week. Okay.